Welcome to the GTN show. Now, we hope that you haven't been caught by any April Fool's jokes yourselves. And we know it was a few days ago, but there's some posts that are just too good not to share.
Yep. Also, the triathlon season is officially underway with Oceanside 70.3 happening this past weekend. Plus, Race Ranger takes a big step forward and we discuss interoception.
Yeah.
Don't worry, we hadn't heard of that word either.
Plus, we have a giveaway for a free entry and trip to Challenge Samarkand.
As always, we're going to start with some of the things we've noticed on the internet this past week. And of course, there was a fair amount of April Fool's foolishness going
Foolery.
on. Yeah, tomfoolery going on. Starting with this one from Innovate, and they said, big news, brace yourself, ultra running fans, the Barkley Marathons is moving to the UK. Of course, the Barkley Marathons we spoke about a couple of weeks ago, which is a crazy event that is not in the UK, and of course it's not coming to the UK.
Yeah.
Disappointing though, it'd be pretty cool to do a Barkley Marathon.
Well, Damien Hall, who did compete, yet not complete this year, says it's a bit of a history. First held in 1986, and it's always been staged amidst a thick mountain woodland over in Tennessee. And then he goes on, however, for 2024, an undisclosed trial period, the race will be held in the UK, with Damien currently assessing potential venues close to remote parts of Pennine Way. And it was quite believable up until this point, until he goes on that it's going to be with a few twists, and he struggled to find a certain book on his fifth and final loop, so making a jest that he didn't manage to complete it. You have to get a page out of a book in every loop. So he said, we may introduce e-books with trackers attached, or ask runners to find tea bags instead of books. I love to fly, so we're talking to American Airlines about a possible sponsorship deal. Oh, and Shallow high on my list too. Now, if you follow Damien, you'll definitely see the irony for that.
Yeah, by now you would have known it was a joke, surely. Another one, and this one, Heather won't admit it, but she fell for it.
It was off camera, come on. What goes on before we shoot?
No. She admitted they got her. 220 Triathlon said Olympic and 70.3 world champion Christian Bloomfield has revealed how choir singing helps his VO2 max, with a source close to the camp saying he has the voice of an angel. And Heather believed that. So
next time I see Christian, I'm going to ask him to sing. Yeah, you never know. I mean, there's a lot of science that goes hand in hand with singing well and having good lung capacity, and one of my friends is a singing teacher and she's told me this.
Okay, well, Christian does a lot of things well, but I'm not sure he sings well.
You never know. I mean, they are trying every area of marginal gains. It could be the next one. This next post, it looks a little bit like our caption competition photo, actually, doesn't it? It's from Finisterre, who are a British surfwear brand, and they're introducing their new front zip wetsuits. Gone are the days of scrabbling at the back for a cord, built for maximum ease and a speedy entry into the water. I mean, the joke is actually in swimrun we do have front zip wetsuits.
Yeah,
so.
Ironically, Mark might have fallen for that one anyway. Precision Fuel and Hydration also had a joke going on with, in collaboration with Life Jacket, they made a salty sun gel, which is basically you can take your electrolytes in through your skin with your sunblock at the same time, which would be very convenient.
Wouldn't it be amazing if
they
actually did
the science of it and tried to explain how you can leverage transdermal absorption technology, which is not a thing.
Yeah, it would be pretty cool if it was. I mean, you can take certain medications through your skin, so you never know. One day, maybe we can just rub our hydration on.
Maybe.
Well, hopefully we've all had a good giggle, but it's probably time to move on from April Fools into the more serious stuff of the show. And this one's quite serious that James spotted.
Yeah, this is from 70.3 Oceanside, which, as we said, happened this weekend. Justin Reel posted this one, but it was also on the Ironman Tri site. A seal leading up the pro men at Ironman 70.3 Oceanside. And I've got to say, if you saw something like that in front of you in the ocean, I'm not sure I would keep swimming flat out towards it.
I don't know, like, how far does adrenaline get you?
I might put the brakes on and go the other direction. It must have been pretty scary. But he did keep going, and they all kept going. And yeah, the seal was just showing them the way, I guess.
You'd kind of be wondering if you're imagining it, wouldn't you? But talking of animals getting sort of involved in races or having slightly scary, hairy moments, the Cape Epic has also had a near miss with this animal. Is it a deer or did you see that?
Yeah, I saw it.
Being from South Africa.
Yeah, probably a Klip Spring in that area. That's where I used to live. Yeah, and the next one also, someone trying to take on triathlon during the Cape Epic. Well, yeah, nothing like a mid-race dip. I don't think it was that warm at the Epic this year, but I'm sure he enjoyed the dip. And then we noticed that Daniela has said goodbye and thank you to Asics, who have been a sponsor for a long time. No word yet on what shoes she will be running in. Watch the space. Be interesting to see who signs up Daniela Reef.
Yeah, I think there'll be a few rumours moving around after that announcement. This one I spotted from that Triathlon Life, and they've got their inaugural TTL development team, which was originally for 5 athletes. They had so many applications, and Paula and Eric have actually opened it up to 7, and they're introducing them briefly here with this little Instagram piece. And I just think it's great to see them giving back and supporting age group athletes to try and do their thing. So if you've not seen it, I'd suggest going to check that one out.
Yeah, and then one more thing from Oceanside, and that's Holly Lawrence. For the first time in her career, not in a skinny swimsuit for a triathlon. She's actually in a full triathlon suit with sleeves and everything. She said, basically she's given in to peer pressure and the aero gains that you get from having that skin covered up.
Yeah. She's also said that if this doesn't sort of result in her racing quicker, she'll go back to the swimsuit. So it'll be interesting.
She didn't win, so yeah.
Yeah, but then I think she did bike well, so we'll see whether her run was reduced as a result of the suit or
Tough
not. But it is. But it looks a pretty cool suit. This next couple are not April Fool's jokes, although by the athletes themselves saying they could be. This one from Graham Jorgensen says, "I won a mountain bike race today, and I promise it's not an April Fool's joke."
And then Sam Long says, "April Fools, I thought I was fit, but it turns out I wasn't." Well, he didn't have quite the result he was hoping for at Oceanside. Not a terribly bad day. He had the fastest bikes, but he wasn't too happy with it. And then finally, what we noticed on the internet, Ross Edgley has put out a new documentary on his epic swim that he attempted in the Loch Ness to try and swim the longest open water swim in history, world record. You watch the documentary because it's pretty epic, and I wouldn't wish that on anyone. It was 5 degrees. He swam for...
I think it was 15.
Oh. It was cold. And he swam
it would be pretty cold for you, James,
he swam
and
for
for me.
52 hours without touching the ground, without touching a boat, without stopping for 52 hours.
It's just insane. I mean,
gonna be a no from me.
The record is still at 67 hours, so if you do want to target another GTN,
no risk of James going after that.
But yeah, there's a post on his Instagram as well, which caught my eye, which then made me want to watch the documentary of a pretty rotten foot. And I watched it last night, and I was just sat there with my mouth wide open, thinking about my half-hour swim session I had the next morning.
Ironically, it looks like his foot's really, really, really dry. Like he needs some.
Let's not dwell. Let's move on. The final piece we spotted was this post from Ailish McColgan after an incredible performance at the Berlin Half Marathon, which she won with a PB and also a new British record. And by looks of the post, a 1 hour 5 minutes 42 seconds. And she's got her debut at the marathon the London Marathon in just a few weeks' time. So exciting to see her race there. Well, on to Tri News, and we're going to kick it off with another new world record, this time by Camille Herron, who is the queen of mega distance running. She has smashed the record for the furthest a woman has ever run in 48 hours, and she covered a whopping 435 kilometres, or 270 miles. And the craziest part being, it was around a 400-metre track, which she completed. Guess how many laps that is? Unless you're really quick at maths, it's 1,088 laps of a track.
Unbelievable.
I just can't get my head around it.
Yeah, I cannot get my head around it. She actually broke a record that was only set in February by Joe Zakaruski from Great Britain, and she only held it since February, so it was already broken. Herron exceeded that by 15.5 miles. She actually beat the record with 3 hours to go, and then carried on running for another 3 hours to add 15 and a half
that motivation?
miles. Yeah, unbelievable. She averaged 10:39 per mile pace, which included at least one 40-minute nap in that 48 hours. So she was actually running even faster than that for most of it. 148 miles in the first 24 hours, and another 122.5 miles in the next 24 hours. It is mind-boggling.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I don't know.
Mind-boggling.
Don't know the why that she must have to keep going through that is
impressive. She's a world record holder anyway.
Yeah, amazing. Moving on, there's been a retraction of a protest or an objection by Adidas against the Black Lives Matter logo. So Black Lives Matter are proposing to have 3 lines beneath their sort of logo, I guess. And Adidas said that this was too similar to their traditional 3 stripes, and they were asking for that to be removed or to not be allowed. 48 hours after submitting this, they retracted it.
Yeah, a source close to the company said that the rapid about turn was triggered by concern that people could misinterpret Adidas's trademark protection or objection as criticism of the actual Black Lives Matter mission, which of course they don't want. So they rapidly turned it around. Ironically, Black Lives Matter could not possibly have got more coverage
They've probably just sat there quietly during all of this.
than through Adidas objecting and then unobjecting to the trademark infringement. They've definitely put that whole trademark on the map entirely for Black Lives Matter. So yeah, not well done Adidas, but also well done Adidas.
Yeah, well thank you Adidas. Yeah, I guess they're saying, aren't they? Yeah.
Yeah. Next piece of news, Race Ranger is going to be used at the World Champs in Ibiza in May. Now this is the World Long Distance Champs put on by World Triathlon, and the elite field will be using the Race Ranger. Now we've featured Race Ranger a few times, we've spoken about it. It's a new draft busting technology where you have a sensor on your bike, both the front and the back, and it has little lights on it that show whether you're within 12 meters of the rider in front of you or not, or 10 meters or 20 meters, whatever they decide to set the distance at. It'll be 12 meters for this one. They've changed the lights and stuff after they did a few trial events in New Zealand. But it's a big step forward for Race Ranger because they haven't actually been in any major championships or any major events. They've just been smaller events in New Zealand where they've tested it. So now World Triathlon has given them the green light to use it at the World Champs in Ibiza in May, which is great. World Triathlon has said that it'll take some time to write this kind of technology into the rulebook to be used at all their events, and obviously to be used to give infringements and penalties, etc., to affect race results. But they have welcomed it and said this is the kind of technology that they need to see to make triathlon racing fair and safe for everyone. So it's a pretty big step in the right direction.
It's a big step forward and really encouraging, isn't it? I think a lot of athletes will be celebrating that one.
Technology finally solving that drafting problem.
We've got new news from the PTO Asia Open in Singapore, and they have just announced that they are having a new race, a duathlon competition for the age group athletes, and there is the short distance and the long distance. So for the short distance, or the standard as they're calling it here, which is their standard, is a 4.5k run, a 32k bike and a 4.5k run, and then the long distance is double that, so a 9k, 64k and a 9k.
Yeah, this comes on top of the 100k event that they have for experienced amateur athletes, which is apparently sold out already. I say experienced amateur athletes because apparently you had to prove you're a strong swimmer to be allowed to swim in the marina in Singapore. But that's sold out, and now there's also duathlons that you can put on, short distance and longer distance duathlons, and it sounds like it's going to be quite the triathlon/duathlon festival over in Singapore. All right, moving on, and Heather and I have had a bit of an interesting discussion this week. It was triggered by a few Coaches Corner questions that we had a couple of weeks ago when we did a little piece on what you think about in your long run and how you process during a long run, what you focus on. And then also an article which we noticed recently on Triathlete about a journal piece about interoception. Now, if you don't know what interoception is, don't worry, nor did we. I had no idea what interoception is. It is basically the subjective feelings that you're getting from your body. It is how your body feels, and it is how you interpret those signals. It is the process of detecting and interpreting bodily sensations. So it's basically subjectively assessing how hard you're working, or how much work you're doing, or how much you're hurting. And there's been an interesting little article on it, and we're going to put the link down below so you can read that article and also the scientific paper on it. They're doing some research into it, and it turns out that elite athletes, which you would think would be much better at listening to their body and interpreting those signals, are actually not that good at it, and they're not really sure why. They're going to do more research into it, but it did get us thinking, what do you think about in your races and in your long runs and in your hard endurance events? Do you think about the pain, or do you try and not think about the pain?
Yeah, where are you? I think a lot. I read this the morning after doing a half marathon that wasn't a fun experience. So I had almost an hour and a half of having these horrible thoughts of just a lot of thoughts, and it really got me thinking of like, does it affect the mood that you're in before you even go and do it? Because this was a cold start, it was grey, I knew I wasn't in great shape, and as a result I just started sort of almost eating away at myself mentally, and then I noticed every single little pain and every ache, and
but too much interoception.
Yes, and it was way too much. But then I was comparing that to a half marathon I ran 6 months earlier, which was almost 2 minutes quicker, but also it was a sunny day, I had no pressure, I was wearing my training shoes, I just went to dinner, there was loads of my friends out on the course, I heard my name, I was smiling externally and internally, and I've just seen the race photos this morning from yesterday's race, and I definitely was not smiling in them. So I was even wondering of like, how much does your mood affect how you then interpret your effort level? Because I really feel like I worked so much harder yet I ran slower.
That's definitely a thing. And Natasha Batman used to smile her way through the entire Ironman.
I should have tried that, I think, yesterday. There was definitely...
I'm not sure how you BS yourself into smiling when it's hurting that much. Personally, from my experience as elite athletes, and when the thing is that they found that elite athletes actually they used to think that you either associated and you focused intensely on what you were doing, or you completely dissociated and you were just kind of away with the fairies, not thinking about your body whatsoever and just going through the motions. And they've actually found that elite athletes tend to switch between the two quite often. In fact, you'll kind of check in on your body, see how it's all feeling, and then dissociate again for a while and not think about it. And I think that's mostly what I did in my races. If I look back on it, I also, looking back on it, most of my races, especially the best ones, in fact, I can't remember much of it at all. It's all like this fuzzy blur that I can't really remember. I remember snatches of it here and there. I definitely don't remember the pain. I know that I was in pain, but I don't remember the pain. But the whole thing is kind of just a fuzzy blur. And I know I was intensely focused on every single thing that I was feeling, but I can't remember any of it. And that might just be my brain kind of trying to whitewash all the pain that I went through and not remember that, and it's also kind of erasing all the rest of it at the same time. I'm not really sure, but these days my long runs are not really that kind of, I mean, I ran into work today and it's just 10 miles, and it's more for my mental health these days. I'm not training, so I don't need to focus so much on how my body's feeling, and if I feel lousy I just slow down a little bit, and I spend the first 30 minutes or so of every run kind of just processing life, clearing my head, thinking about everything that needs to be thought about, and then I kind of don't think about anything. And people don't believe me when I say that, but it becomes a little bit kind of meditative where I don't think about anything at all. And Jodie can't get this at all. She doesn't understand because my wife is a thinker. She's always thinking. But I just don't think. I just switch off. And then when it gets even longer, then I start daydreaming and thinking about stuff. And yeah, I won't tell you where my mind goes when I'm daydreaming, but I do tend to daydream as the run gets longer and longer.
Massively, I do. I mean, it depends on what time of day. I do quite often plan my supper as well on my run. Like if I'm hungry.
No, that is a bad idea. Do not stop thinking about food. I've got to do a run
after this, and I will definitely be thinking about what I'm going to have for supper.
No way.
But I definitely do what you do in the sort of process. The amount of things I remember, and I write my to-do list, and I think I must reply to that friend, or I must, and then I get home and I forget it afterwards. I'm like, oh no, I wish I could almost do those replies whilst I'm running, but you can sort of put them in a box and feel quite sort of just back in control of life.
Been processed, definitely.
I definitely like that part.
It's an interesting discussion, and everyone has different strategies, both for getting through the pain of race day, but also for getting through just their long run on the weekend. What is your strategies? We'd love to hear from you. Leave your comments down below, and maybe we'll discuss this a little bit further and dig a little bit deeper into it in an upcoming video.
On to What the Tech, and there is a new update for the Apple Watch, enabling it to act as a power meter. Well, sort of as a power meter. They've updated the app HR2 VP with a companion app that takes certain metrics from your watch, in particular the heart rate sensor, to predict your power. So don't get too excited about this. If you don't have a power meter on your bike, your watch is not suddenly going to become an accurate power meter, yet it's going to give you an estimation by working out your heart rate. If you do have a cadence sensor on your bike, then it compare to that and give you a little bit more of an accurate prediction.
Yeah, it's not just taking your heart rate and turning it into a different number.
Using an algorithm.
It uses an algorithm based on your FTP that you can put in there, and your max heart rate and your minimum heart rate, and then it kind of adjusts it. As Heather says, you can connect a proper power meter to it for a while. It will learn how your power links to your heart rate, and then when you go out without the power meter, it will know roughly what your power is. So I guess it's got some legs, but it is it's not an actual power meter.
But I mean, the watch is becoming, I guess, a little bit more of a functional bike computer if that's sort of what you use when you're riding, and it can also be linked up to Zwift and things. So it's kind of got some exciting developments, but I wouldn't get too excited about the power aspect.
It's not quite a power meter, yeah. Also, in the tech news this week, Arena Games has partnered with Leeds Beckett University to improve the treadmill technology that they're using. The treadmills that they use, of course, are these self-powered treadmills, and we did an interesting video on it. You can click watch the link down below. We tried to run a world record marathon pace on one of these self-powered treadmills with not very stellar results.
Not much success.
Go watch the video. It's interesting. We got a few of our office colleagues to try it out too. It's really hard to run on them. They're not the same as a normal treadmill because, of course, there's no motor pushing the belt along. You've got to do it yourself. But Leeds Beckett University have partnered with Super League Triathlon and the Arena Games to test these treadmills, and it's already resulted in them changing their the calibration method that they use on these treadmills so that they're more accurate and they're more in sync with all the other treadmills, because obviously with 10 different treadmills you want them all to be measuring the same, otherwise someone's going to have an advantage. And they've already changed the calibration of these treadmills, but they're still doing more research now with the Arena Games coming up in London this coming weekend. They're going to do more research into how different runners' running styles affects how these treadmills work with you and how different treadmills work for different athletes. So it's very interesting, and we'll see treadmill technology advancing with the help of things like the Arena Games, which is interesting. It's kind of like a full circle thing. Like they use the treadmill, and then the treadmill gets better. So I
imagine the athletes will be wanting to get their hands on the data of the running technique. Within reason, I'm sure they've done a lot of experimentation themselves. But
it's like a running economy test at full speed during a race kind of thing.
Yeah, interesting.
Interesting. Yeah, I've got to say I didn't enjoy running on the self-powered treadmill.
I didn't, just because it made me feel like I'm even slower than I am, basically. It's not good for the ego, is it, running one of those?
No, it's not. They're hard.
All right, it is now giveaway time. Well, in fact, first, it is giveaway results time. We have a winner to announce from the Orca Vitalis wetsuit. Now, you might have seen the unboxing that Mark did of this rather lovely looking cozy thermal wetsuit. I haven't got my hands on one yet. I'm desperate if I'm going to go anywhere near the water in the UK. But the lucky winner is Brendan Carrillo. So congratulations, Brendan.
Yeah, well done. Your wetsuit's on its way to you. If you missed out that competition, we have another giveaway, and this is for a race. That's right, you can win an entry and accommodation and flights to Challenge Samarkand in Uzbekistan on the 17th of September 2023. As I say, the prize includes your flights up to a maximum of $1,500, 3 nights bed and breakfast accommodation, and of course your race entry to that new race on the calendar in Samarkand in Uzbekistan. So if you were thinking of doing that one, or you just want to go a new race experience, make sure you enter now.
Yeah, you've got until this Saturday coming, so the 8th of April, to get that entry in, and we will announce the winner in next week's show. Good luck. Race news, and it is time to kick off the season with the unofficial start with Ironman 70.3 Oceanside over in California. And it wasn't quite California sunshine, or it hasn't been in the build-up, and I know a lot of the athletes talk about it being quite cold at the start, so much so that they apparently had to move the swim from the ocean start that it's so famous for, through the waves, which everyone likes to watch, bit of drama, into a deep water harbour start. So it did change the race dynamics for the swim a little bit, but still, in the women's race, Holly Lawrence took advantage and went out on her own to open up a significant gap on the swim. And then there was a group chasing. So Kat Matthews, Chelsea Sodaro, Tamara Jewett in that, and Paula Finley all came out to the water pretty close together, and they worked on that gap and then basically closed down to Holly Lawrence, meaning that it became more of a running race at the end of the day. Tamara Jewett did serve a 30-second penalty, apparently not used to being up there with the lead group. She had an exceptionally strong swim. So yeah, put her hands up to that one and served it, and then had a bit of a deficit to work on. But we'll come into that in a moment. She made up for that, no problem. So going out of transition, it was actually Holly and Kat who had quick transitions and headed out together. And at one point, Kat Matthews was leading the race, and she had such a beaming smile on her face because this was really significant. Her first race back since breaking her neck 6 months ago, and just amazing to see her racing in such great shape. I think there was some clip that her husband put up of her saying, "I'm not fit enough to run at this pace, and she ran a blistering 1:18. That was quick enough for third place. However, Chelsea Sodaro took the lead, but then coming through from behind with an absolutely storming run was Tamara Jewett. And she clocked a 1:12.59 or a 1:13, whichever results you look on, because there seems to be a few different ones, but an absolutely amazing run time to take the win. Chelsea Sodaro second and Kat Matthews in third. Slightly disappointing race for Holly Lawrence in her own words, finishing fourth, and Paula Finley just didn't have the run legs that day and finished in fifth.
Yeah, incredible run by Tamara Jewett there. She actually outran all but 7 of the 49 men in the pro field.
Mad.
In fact, ran exactly the same time as 70.3 World Championships runner-up Ben Canute in fourth place today. Ben Canute, exactly the same time as him. It is mind-boggling how fast she was running out there. Very, very impressive. As for the men's race, before we get on to the men's race, Chelsea Sodaro actually posted afterwards that she has donated her entire prize money for this, $5,000 for her second place, to Moms Demand, which is a grassroots organisation working to make the country safer for our children. And basically what she said was, she wants to be able to drop her kid off at school and know that she'll be able to pick her up safe again at the end of the day, which is, well, pretty heavy.
Quite moving, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And kudos to her for donating her entire prize money to that organisation to try and help make.
And she announced that
kids
before she
safer.
raced as well, didn't she? So it was whatever position she finished, she was going to do that. So amazing.
Respect. Yeah. Meanwhile, on the men's race, as we found out just before the race, Jan Frodeno and Lionel Sanders both pulled out at the last minute, so we wouldn't have a showdown between them or them on the start line. But we did have WTCS world champion Leo Berger out there racing his 70.3, and he did what you would expect the WTCS world champion to do. He swam fastest, and then he held on the bike with the rest of the guys, and then he ran away to take the win. Leo Berger taking the win there with a 1:10.33 run and a 3:45.25 total time. The only person who actually put him under any pressure was second place Jason West, who has been in incredible form lately, and he showed that on the run because he ran a 1:07.40, which is blistering. He got within 12 seconds of Leo Berger. After starting the run 3 minutes and 11 seconds down out of T2, he got within 12 seconds of taking the win there. It was an incredible run, but he did get second place. Jackson Laundry in third. Ben Canute, as we said, in fourth, running exactly the same time as the women's winner. And George Goodwin from the UK in fifth. So impressive racing all around there, and I think we can officially say the season has started.
Oh yeah. We also had Xterra Dunsborough down in Western Australia, and this was the inaugural event actually. The men's race was won by Sam Osborne, and the women's race was won by Samantha Kingsford.
Yeah, well done there. Now, as we said, start of the season officially, but actually there's not that many races coming up for a little while. The next major pro race in the Ironman side of things is Ironman Texas, which happens on the 22nd of April and is the North American Ironman Champs. So that should be a pretty big one and a pretty stacked field. And in fact, Kat Matthews is going to be doing that one. So back to Ironman racing for her. Watch that space. Yeah, there's a few challenge races also happening on that weekend, but not really anything in the long course racing up until then. But yeah, Challenge Gran Canaria happening that weekend and a few others too. But this coming weekend, there is the Super League London Arena Games final, which is definitely going to be worth tuning in for because Jonathan Brownlee makes his return to Arena Games, and also Ironman world champion Gustav Eden is jumping into the super short distance after winning Ironman world champs.
It'll be interesting to see how he does because he's sort of gone back to WTCS and speed's not
He's trying
been there.
Trying to get up his speed for the Paris bid for next year. So yeah, he's jumping into Arena Games. It'll be interesting to see how all of those guys go. So tune in this weekend.
It's now time to take a look and share some of your photos, and in this first case just your submissions and things you've spotted, because this one from Neil says an April Fool joke on the Ironman Journey group Facebook page, and apparently it got a big reaction as someone pretended that the Ironman had changed their logo and that the red tattoos that lots of people do sport on their calves are now going to be retro, no longer
your
in
dot
date.
Is gone.
You are out of date. You are, you go and get a laser on that tattoo right now.
They also said they've changed the distances because the atomic weight of iron is 55.8, so they're setting the half iron distance at 55.8 and the full distance to 111.6 miles over the 3 disciplines, so the goal is more reachable for everyone else. And apparently some people fell for this on the new Ironman logo.
Oh, brilliant.
It was an April Fool's. Ironman have not change their logo.
Yeah.
Next one is from James in the Philippines. Batangas in the Philippines. He said hill training before breakfast and a 15-kilometer uphill ride starting the training for the season. 15-kilometer uphill ride.
Well, I don't know.
Was that repeats or did he just go straight up the hill?
I think
for
the
15
Philippines is
kilometers?
ridiculously hilly because Connor Dunn, the GCN presenter, has just come back from there saying that it was epic cycling.
I've done a fair amount of training in the Philippines.
Okay,
they
you've been
have
there.
Some really steep hills, but I don't think they have any that are 15 kilometers long. It's a fairly flat country, but it is ridiculously steep roads. I mean, they're not shy to build 20+% roads.
Even on a photo for it to look steep, it's got to be, hasn't it?
Exactly.
This next one from Kaylee in Wisconsin, USA, says, I used to hate swimming, but with a permanently ruined knee from overtraining, I haven't been able to run for nearly 7 years, just biking. Took up swimming for off-season fitness in the harsh winters, and I'm now obsessed.
Oh, well, welcome to it.
I mean, that would be the day, James, if you get injured enough to become obsessed with swimming. We can...
The fingers crossed that never happens. Touch wood, whatever I need to do. Yeah.
This last little bit I've added, actually, was a reaction to last week's show. So we included this video that was actually of Paul, sent in from him finishing his race when he just totally face planted at the finish line. Now, we wouldn't have included it if he hadn't sent it to us, so we knew he was okay. But we had this reply to the show from Alan Liu, said, so I'm the guy that overtakes Paul near the finish line of that triathlon sprint. He says, I'm embarrassed to say this whole time I thought the crowd was going oof because I'd overtaken him. I didn't realise he tripped over behind me at the time. And then he says, glad to hear you're okay, Paul, and what to say, I can only hope I'll still be doing what you do at your age. It was my first triathlon and I hope it's not my last. I just think that's really lovely.
Yeah, Alan thought the whole crowd was really engaged in that dust between him and Paul going along the finish line. He was like, they were all like, whoa, he's overtaken him. Turns out he had stacked it. Remember to put your submissions into our inbox if you can. Use the uploader on the screen right now. Anything triathlon related, if you've done some races, if you're starting off your season, or just your training pics, we'd love to see them and include them on the show next week. So use the uploader now. All right, now it's time for the caption competition. And last week we had this photo from the World Triathlon Winter Triathlon. And Barry Field says, employing physics in the finishing chute, much less friction on just one ski.
David Zebedee has this one saying, apparently hopping improves my running. Maybe it's the same for skiing. Now, there's a bit of a theme here because last week's show, we were talking about hopping improving your running.
Giving you a bit of context there. Savage Pro says, GTN show episode 294, while I am hopping, this will help. Oh, yes.
Close one, yeah. Rachel Carr, when you get out of the swim onto poolside.
Oh, yeah, balancing, yeah. And our winner this week is Thomas K. He says, no swim in this triathlon. Don't worry, I can still practice my stumble turns. Well done, Thomas. Get hold of us and we'll get a cap out to you for winning the caption competition. This week, we have this one. It's from the Arena Games London last year, because Arena Games London is coming up this week, and it is, well, having a bit of a nap on the treadmill. Not really sure what he's doing in that photo, but if you have an idea, leave it in the caption competition down below. Use that hashtag caption competition, and you could be winning a cap next week.
Well, that brings us to a close for this week's show. But before we go, we've got exciting videos coming up, including one on a minimum amount of training required to complete an Ironman. So if you have just entered one that's, I don't know, X months away and you really don't have that much time, then it's worth keeping an eye out for that. But before we do go, if you've enjoyed it, do remember to give us a like and hit on the globe to subscribe to make sure you get all of those upcoming videos. Yeah, and don't forget to head over to the GTN shop if you're looking for any of our merchandise, including those awesome kits that we wear in our videos. And if you're looking for something to watch right now, we did a little April Fool's aerobics workout, I think you can call it. And to be fair, it was a proper workout. You kept smiling though, James.
Follow along. I was smiling the whole time. Yeah.
You definitely got into character. I mean,
before you just sit there and laugh and get a stomach workout, try and do the actual whole session from start to finish. It's a good old workout for our April Fool's retro hit video. Click the link now and you can watch it.